Jimmy Hoffa disappeared almost a half-century ago.
What happened to Jimmy Hoffa, the union boss who disappeared 37 years ago?
Stop me if you've heard this before. The FBI is at it again, following up on a new tip in the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa, the Teamsters boss last seen 46 years ago.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're the podcast where we plunge into the most captivating stories, try to unravel their complexities, and, well, extract those nuggets of knowledge you need to be truly well-informed.
That's the goal.
And today, wow, we are tackling a riddle that has left investigators, armchair detectives, pretty much everyone stumped for half a century. It's a mystery that's really woven itself into the very fabric of American culture.
It really has, hasn't it? It's one of those cases everyone thinks they know something about.
Exactly. So imagine this, a powerful, truly legendary figure, last seen in broad daylight, okay, in a busy restaurant parking lot back in 1975, and then just gone.
Vanished, without a trace.
50 years later, still no body, no definitive answers, just this relentless stream of theories, whispered names, endless speculation. We are, of course, talking about James Riddle Hoffa.
Jimmy Hoffa.
Or, as millions know him, Jimmy Hoffa. This isn't just some historical footnote, right? It feels like something ripped straight from a Hollywood thriller, but it is startlingly real.
Absolutely. It's got all the elements: power, betrayal, organized crime.
So to really understand how we got here and maybe what new insights can be revealed, we need to unpack this extraordinary deep dive. And we're going to use a truly unique analytical approach later on.
Yeah, what's really fascinating here, I think, is how the disappearance of just one man, a single event on a summer afternoon could become so deeply embedded in Americana. It's incredible.
Right.
For 5 decades, that dusset question, what happened to Jimmy Hoffa, it's just remained stubbornly unanswered. And that's fueled this whole cottage industry of speculation books, documentaries, even major movies.
Everyone has a theory.
Everyone. But, few have offered definitive, provable answers. So our mission today is really to cut through that noise. We want to sift through the widely available info, look at new perspectives, and yes, apply this unique analytical method.
Right.
Hopefully we can give you a clearer, more objective picture of the events leading up to, during, and after that fateful day. We want to shine a spotlight on what seems to be the most likely truth, let you feel like you're right there with us, sifting through the evidence, connecting the dots.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this from the very beginning. Because before he became this national enigma, a symbol of union power and this famous missing person, Jimmy Hoffa was James Riddle Hoffa, born in Brazil, Indiana, Valentine's Day, 1913.
Humble beginnings, really.
Oh, absolutely. He was truly a force of nature, but from the humblest of beginnings. His father, a coal miner, German descent, he passed away when Jimmy was just 7, left his Irish mother to raise 4 kids in, well, pretty challenging circumstances.
And that early hardship, you can see how that would shape someone, right? It clearly did shape him, instilled this deep-seated empathy for the working class and this unyielding will to fight for what he thought was right.
Yeah. The family eventually moved to Detroit, 1924. And by the age of 14, Hoffa had already dropped out of school. He was working full-time manual labor jobs, doing whatever he could to help support his family.
That's not just a biographical detail, is it? It feels central to who he was, his core identity, that relentless drive.
Totally.
And he started his union work really young at the grassroots level as a teenager in a grocery chain warehouse in Detroit where, the conditions were terrible, wages were awful, workers were desperate for better treatment. And even then, at that young age, his courage, his natural charisma, his ability to connect with people on their level, it really impressed his fellow workers.
So he stood out immediately.
Oh, yeah. Elevated him quickly to a leadership spot among his peers.
Wow.
By 1932, his, let's say, aggressive union activities had already led him to leave that grocery chain. He was quickly invited to become an organizer with local 299 of the Teamsters in Detroit.
And his tactics were something else, weren't they?
Yeah. His preferred tactic for recruiting, which tells you a lot about his tenacity, his direct approach, he'd famously pull up alongside sleeping truck drivers on the road, wake them up, and just give them his impassioned sales pitch right there.
On the side of the highway.
Right there. But what's truly remarkable, his genius, it wasn't just in recruiting. It was his strategic ability to consolidate all these, disparate local trucker groups into one single national powerhouse.
The Teamsters.
The International Brotherhood of Teamsters. They only had about 75,000 members back in 33. But under his leadership, the growth was explosive.
What kind of numbers are we talking about?
By 36, 170,000 members. Just 3 years later, 420,000. And by 1951, they topped 1 million members. Eventually became the largest and arguably the most powerful union in the U.S.
Right.
And that growth, it wasn't just numbers, it translated into immense political, economic clout. And that kind of power, well, as we know, it often comes with very complicated, sometimes dangerous connections.
And this is really where the narrative takes that pivotal turn, doesn't it? Because that growth, that power you mentioned, it came with this almost inextricable link, some would even say nefarious link, to organized crime.
Yeah, that's undeniable.
The investigation revealed that from his earliest days in the Union, Hoffa allegedly cultivated these connections, particularly with the Detroit Mafia. They often called it the Detroit Partnership, and other mob families across the country.
Right. It's crucial to understand, though, Hoffa himself, he wasn't a made man. He didn't have the genetic pedigree required for official Sicilian mafia membership.
Okay.
But his interactions with them, they were deeply intimate, transactional. He used these relationships for leverage, during tough labor negotiations, for access to industries that were maybe closed off to unions before.
And the big one, the pension fund.
Exactly. Most notably, to tap into the union's hugely lucrative Central States pension fund, some sources just called it the Golden Goose.
Golden Goose, billions of dollars.
Right. Billions accumulating from union dues. It became this primary lending source for mob-controlled businesses, especially, the booming casino industry out in Vegas.
Right.
Hoffa, he was a street guy through and through. Rough around the edges, sure, but he could really relate to the rank and file, had a mind like a steel trap, by all accounts, knew exactly what he was doing, where he was going.
So he was walking this razor's edge, balancing the union's interests with the mob's demands.
Precisely. He walked that edge constantly.
Which raises this fundamental question, right? About the nature of that power. How did this seemingly paradoxical relationship between a labor leader and organized crime actually function for so long?
Well, some historians argue Hoffa was uniquely skilled at keeping the mafia kind of in check regarding internal union stuff, leveraging their muscle for organizing drives, but stopping them from just seizing control outright.
But others see it differently.
Yeah, many investigators believe his ties to organized crime were actually the very foundation of the Teamsters' rapid ascent. The mob provided protection, they enforced strikes with intimidation, helped unionize companies that might otherwise have resisted.
So it was a strategy from the start.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Implemented from the early 1930s. That's what propelled the Teamsters to become one of the most formidable, most feared unions in the States.
And the money from that pension fund. You mentioned Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Reportedly used for huge projects, famously financing the original Caesars Palace, other casinos in Vegas, often with minimal oversight. Loans from the Teamsters Pension Fund were, let's say, always known to be available in Detroit for big projects.
If you knew the right people.
Provided you were willing to do business with certain people, usually those with deep, often criminal connections. And that financial lifeline to the mob, well, that would ultimately become one of Hoffa's grievous liabilities.
So Hoffa's meteoric rise, it didn't go unnoticed, especially not by the U.S. government. He became infamous for his very public, often vitriolic clashes with Robert F. Kennedy.
RFK. Yeah, that was a huge public battle.
Kennedy, first as chief counsel for that powerful Senate Rackets Investigating Committee in the late 50s, then later as Attorney General under his brother, President John F. Kennedy, he spearheaded this relentless, get Hoffa squad.
It was personal for Kennedy.
Absolutely. It played out on national television. You could still see those grainy black and white images of Hoffa testifying under oath in 57, often defiant, refusing to be intimidated. The animosity between those two men, it was palpable, personal, intense, set the stage for this dramatic legal showdown that really captivated the nation.
The pressure on Hoffa must have been immense, just this constant legal shadow over his every move.
For years.
Indeed, and the investigation showed that Kennedy's relentless pursuit, it eventually led to Hoffa's conviction in 1964. He was found guilty on 2 major charges. First, jury tampering down in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Right, trying to bribe a juror.
Yep. Attempting to bribe a grand juror during a 1962 conspiracy trial. And later, pension fund fraud in Chicago. For improper use, alleged embezzlement of millions from that Teamsters pension fund.
So, serious charges. What was the sentence?
He got an aggregate of 13 years in federal prison. Started serving in March 1967 at Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary in Pennsylvania.
But Hoffa, being Hoffa, he had a plan.
Always. Ever the pragmatist. He'd planned for this possibility. He installed his longtime number two, his vice president Frank Fitzsimmons, as acting president.
The idea being Fitz would just keep the seat warm?
Exactly. Intending for Fitzsimmons to be just a figurehead, a loyal caretaker, lapdog, until Hoffa could return. But this arrangement, born of necessity, it would turn out to be one of Hoffa's greatest miscalculations. Triggered a whole series of events that would seal his, tragic fate.
But that's not quite how it played out, was it? Because here's where the story takes a really unexpected turn. December 1971, less than 5 years into his 13-year sentence, President Richard Nixon commutes Hoffa's sentence.
Nixon.
Right.
Releases him from prison.
Seemed like a victory, a testament to Hoffa's enduring influence. But there was a huge catch. A highly controversial condition stipulated that he couldn't engage in any union activities, directly or indirectly, until March 6, 1980.
9 years, basically barred from reclaiming the Teamsters presidency.
Exactly, and Hoffa was furious about this.
Oh, yeah. What's crucial here is that Hoffa vehemently felt he never actually agreed to that specific condition. He launched this ferocious, very public campaign to overturn the order. He was intent on reclaiming his presidency.
Which put him directly against Fitzsimmons.
Directly at loggerheads with Frank Fitzsimmons, the guy he handpicked. Fitzsimmons, well, he was no longer the loyal subordinate. He'd grown accustomed to the immense power of the Teamsters presidency.
Got comfortable.
Very comfortable, began to aggressively distance himself from Hoffa's influence, establish his own formidable power base, and, crucially, solidified his own connections with organized crime figures across the country.
So he wasn't the lapdog anymore.
Not at all. He was a formidable adversary. And this created an incredibly dangerous situation for Hoffa. Hoffa believed, maybe overestimated, his rank-and-file support, thought he could oust Fitzsimmons and challenge the mob's influence within the Union.
He wanted to cleanse the Union.
That was his stated goal. His determination to cleanse the Union of their pervasive influence, regain control of that hugely lucrative pension fund, well, that directly threatened massive financial interests, especially organized crime figures like Anthony Provenzano,
Tony Progan,
the powerful New Jersey mobster. He'd frequently borrowed millions from the fund. Hoffa's unwavering belief that he could single-handedly fight the mob, that he was untouchable, what many historians, investigators call his hubris.
It sealed his fate.
Ultimately, yeah, he became a dangerous liability, a man who knew too much, threatened too much.
And that, you see, sets the fateful stage for July 30, 1975. Hoffa, he's 62 years old then, spending the summer at his cottage up in Lake Orion, Michigan. Quiet retreat, about a half-hour drive from where he was last seen.
Right.
That afternoon, he had a scheduled meeting. 2 p.m., Malkus Red Fox Restaurant in Bloomfield Township, that Detroit suburb. And what makes this detail so poignant, it was a familiar place for him, seemingly safe. It's where his son James had his wedding reception just a few years before.
Wow, okay.
The investigation revealed he was supposedly meeting with 2 major mob figures. Anthony Dave, Tony Jack Alone, the alleged kingpin of the Detroit Mafia, known for being cunning and control.
And Tony Pro.
And Tony Provenzano, the powerful New Jersey mobster with whom Hoffa had that deeply, notoriously hostile history.
That prison feud.
Right? Reportedly stemmed from a brutal fight during their time in prison together back in the 60s. Provenzano had allegedly threatened to pull out Hoffa's guts or kidnap his grandkids. Serious threats.
Vicious stuff.
So this meeting presented as a chance to bury the hatchet, clear Hoffa's path to regain Union control. It was seen as a crucial step if he was going to overcome those federal restrictions and challenge Fitzsimmons. The tension around this meeting must have been just suffocating.
Absolutely. And urgency, the precision of the timeline that day, it's critical to understanding what happened. Hoffa leaves his Lake Orion home around 1:15 p.m., makes a brief stop at a friend's office in Pontiac, then arrives at the Malkus Red Fox around 2 p.m.
Right on time.
Right on time. Witnesses later placed him in the restaurant's parking lot, pacing impatiently. Then, between 2:1 and 2:30 p.m., he gets increasingly annoyed, calls his wife Josephine from a payphone.
Where's the payphone?
On a post right in front of a nearby hardware store, directly behind the Malkus Red Fox. He complains bitterly to her that Jacalone hadn't shown up, tells her he'd been stood up.
Stood out.
Then he tells her he'd be home by 4 p.m. to grill steaks for dinner. And that call meant to confirm a simple dinner. It's just chilling. It was the last known direct communication he had with his family before he just vanished.
Into thin air.
Multiple witnesses saw him pacing that parking lot, visibly frustrated, agitated. What's truly remarkable, though, is the FBI estimated he left the location without a struggle.
No struggle, so he got in a car willingly.
It's just he willingly entered a vehicle, yeah. Around 2:45, 2:50 p.m., this is a crucial detail. It points to a planned departure, not a forced abduction right there.
Okay. And was there a witness to him leaving?
One key witness, later identified as a local drug dealer actually, reported seeing Hoffa in the back of a maroon 1975 Mercury Marquis with 3 other people.
A maroon Mercury Marquis. Whose car was it?
Detectives quickly found out it belonged to Joseph Giacalone, Tony Jack's son, and it had been borrowed earlier that day by Charles Chucky O'Brien.
Chucky O'Brien, Hoffa's foster son.
The very same. But their relationship had soured significantly by then. O'Brien was considered kind of an errand boy for the Detroit Mafia, known to run errands for Tony Jacks.
So this seemingly minor detail, the borrowed car,
became absolutely central to the investigation. It became devastatingly clear that the peace meeting was nothing but a calculated ruse, a carefully orchestrated trap to get Hoffa out in the open for what was clearly a planned assassination.
and Giacalone and Provenzano, the guys he was supposed to meet.
They quickly established alibis, vehemently denied any meeting, even though Hoffa had Giacalone's initials and the meeting details written meticulously in his personal calendar for that day. 2 p.m., Maucus Red Fox.
Unbelievable. So the morning after, Hoffa still hasn't returned home by early morning. His wife Josephine, now deeply concerned, calls their children.
Right. Luis Linteau, a close friend, a Hoffa loyalist, he goes straight to the Maucus Red Fox, finds Hoffa's unlocked car still sitting in the parking lot, but no Hoffa.
Just the car. No sign of struggle.
None. No indication of what happened. Just an eerie silence. Police were called immediately, then Michigan State Police, and finally the FBI's full resources were alerted.
When was the official report filed?
By 6 p.m. that evening, Hoffa's son James officially filed a missing person report. And that set in motion one of the most extensive and frankly frustrating investigations in American history.
The Hoffa family, desperate for answers, quickly offered a huge reward, right? $200,000.
Yeah, a substantial sum back then, for any information about his disappearance, which, as you can imagine, sparked intense public interest and led to this absolute deluge of tips, some credible, many, many more, just wildly speculative, time-consuming for investigators.
A flood of information, mostly noise.
Exactly. Now, the primary physical evidence detectives recovered, the thing that became a cornerstone of the initial investigation, was indeed that maroon 1975 Mercury Marquis.
The car Chucky O'Brien borrowed.
That's the one. Police dogs, specially trained for human scent, were brought in. They positively identified Hoffa's scent inside the car, particularly in the back seat.
Okay, so the dogs confirmed he was likely in there.
And what's even more compelling, a microscopic piece of his hair was recovered from the back seat of that very vehicle, later matched with DNA from Hoffa's own hairbrush.
Wow, DNA confirmation.
Irrefutable evidence that he was at some point inside that specific car, a car directly linked to the organized crime figures.
So that places him in their orbit, in that car, right before he vanished.
Precisely. But the investigation, despite these leads, proved incredibly challenging. As we said, Tony Jack Giacalone and Tony Provenzano, the supposed meeting attendees, they both had strong alibis, though later scrutinized, and they flat out denied any meeting.
Provenzano was supposedly in New Jersey.
Yeah, seen fraternizing with local union members in Hoboken, New Jersey, seemingly far from Detroit. However, by December 1975, a federal investigator testified in court. Said a witness had identified 3 specific New Jersey men, all close associates of Provenzano, as participants in the abduction and murder of James R. Hoffa.
Okay, who were they?
Thomas Andretta, a powerful figure in the Genovese crime family. Salvatore Bergoglio and his brother Gabriel Bergoglio. Salvatore Sally Bugs, he was particularly notorious, a brutal enforcer, known hitman for Tony Pro.
So they had names, suspects, but making a case.
Incredibly difficult. Despite extensive surveillance, wiretapping, immense pressure, the mafia members involved were just incredibly tight-lipped. Even in private conversations picked up on Bugs. It speaks volumes about that powerful code of silence, the omerta, within the organization.
A wall of silence.
A wall that investigators found almost impenetrable, even with the full might of the FBI behind them.
So 50 years later, the search for Hoffa's remains. It's become almost as legendary, maybe more so than the man himself. It's captivated the public imagination like few other unsolved cases. Turned into this grim treasure hunt.
Yeah, countless digs, each one raising hopes, only to dash them against the, well, unyielding ground.
You can just picture it, right? Heavy machinery tearing up these quiet landscapes, forensic teams meticulously sifting earth, media helicopters circling overhead, capturing every moment for a public hungry for answers.
From that horse farm in Milford Township, torn apart in 2003 based on some deathbed confession.
To that field in Oakland Township, just miles from the Marcus Red Fox, dug up multiple times because of informant tips.
And even that massive landfill under the Pulaski Skyway in New Jersey. The ground has been torn up repeatedly across multiple states.
And each time, forensic teams, law enforcement arrived with heavy equipment, media attention flares up, the Hoffa family's hopes get reignited.
And each time, nothing. No trace of Hoffa's body. No definitive clue to its final resting place. The frustration for the investigators, the pain for the family, it must have been and still be immense, enduring.
So legally, what's the status?
Well, Jimmy Hoffa was officially declared legally passed away in 1982, 7 years after he disappeared.
Yeah.
It was a necessary legal step, but despite that, the case officially remains open.
Still an open FBI case after all this time.
Right. It's a testament to the FBI's commitment, maybe, but also to the profound difficulty of solving a high-profile crime without a body or without a cooperating witness turning state's evidence. Back in 1989, Kenneth Walton, who was the agent in charge of the FBI's Detroit office then, he made this really telling statement to the Detroit News. He said, and I quote, "I'm comfortable, I know who did it, but it's never going to be prosecuted because we would have to divulge informants, confidential sources."
Wow. So they know, but they can't prove it in court without burning their sources.
That highlights the immense complexity, doesn't it? Prosecuting a case like this without physical evidence, especially when it involves highly placed informants inside organized crime. The Code of Omerta is one thing, but protecting those sources, which is vital for ongoing investigations, preventing future crimes, that often takes precedence over solving one singular, albeit famous, cold case.
It leaves you wondering what tantalizing, unprosecutable information is locked away in those classified files, forever out of reach for legal closure.
Exactly. The truth in this instance, likely known, but ultimately unprovable in a court of law.
So, the Hoffa mystery, precisely because it is unsolved and because of the dramatic figures involved, it spawned this whole cottage industry. Articles, books, films, endless speculation. Everyone, it seems, has a theory. From the plausible to the truly outlandish.
Oh, yeah. Some are wild.
But many of these, while captivating, often dramatic, they've been thoroughly disproven by diligent investigation. They become little more than urban legends, right?
Pretty much.
And this is where popular culture often just diverges wildly from the established facts. Maybe the most widely known Hollywood version is Martin Scorsese's 2019 movie, The Irishman.
Right. Huge film.
Brought the case to international audiences. The film famously portrayed Frank Sheeran, a mob enforcer, as the guy who supposedly shot Hoffa in a Detroit house. Compelling narrative, amazing cast.
Yeah.
But how much of it was actually rooted in verifiable truth?
Well, yeah, about that. Many leading Hoffa scholars and experts, like Detroit crime writer Scott Bernstein, Harvard law professor Jack Goldsmith, they've vehemently called The Irishman historical blasphemy.
Strong words.
Very. Bernstein, in particular, stated unequivocally that Frank Sheeran was notoriously a loud, drunken storyteller, had a long-standing, well-documented reputation for lying within law enforcement circles.
So not exactly a reliable narrator.
Not remotely. The investigation revealed Sheeran himself gave no fewer than 4 different, often contradictory accounts over his lifetime about Hoffa's disappearance, and not a single one of them initially involved him in the actual killing.
Okay, and the physical evidence? The house?
Crucially, the traces found in the Detroit house where Sheeran later claimed it all went down. Definitively not Hoffa's, effectively debunking his central claim.
Which raises the question, why would someone claim something like that?
Often it's for money. Sheeran got a lucrative book deal out of it. Or for notoriety, to carve out a place in history, however fabricated it might be.
Right. And there were other crazy theories too, weren't there?
Oh, absolutely. Some were almost absurd in their creativity, yet they persist. Like the idea he was buried under the Renaissance Center in downtown Detroit.
Which Bernstein called.
Absolutely absurd. Yeah. Then there was the claim he was encased in a concrete driveway out in Roseville, Michigan. Forensic teams sampled it, found no human remains whatsoever.
And the big one? Giant Stadium.
Ah, yes, the most widely circulated urban legend, perhaps, that Hoffa ended up under Giant Stadium in New Jersey. So persistent, it was even investigated by the Discovery Channel show Mythbusters.
Did they find anything?
Ground-penetrating radar found nothing. And conclusively, when Giant Stadium was demolished back in 2010, no human remains were found at all. finally put that myth to rest.
So completely debunked.
Completely. Even claims from notorious figures like Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman, the self-proclaimed contract killer. He stated in a posthumous biography he killed Hoffa, put his body in a car sold for scrap, widely dismissed as hoaxes by former FBI agents on the case. Kuklinski was known for boasting, exaggerating.
It's incredible, though, how these theories just take on a life of their own. They keep circulating, get retold, despite zero evidence or even direct refutation.
It really speaks to that enduring human fascination with unsolved mysteries, doesn't it? That innate desire to play detective, to fill in the blanks, no matter how wild the speculation gets.
Okay, so if all these sensational, movie-ready theories just fall apart under scrutiny, and conventional investigation methods have basically hit a wall after 5 decades, how can we really get closer to the truth of what happened to Jimmy Hoffa?
Right. Where do we go from here?
This is where our deep dive truly earns its name. What if we could apply our rigorous, objective mathematical framework to the existing proven data? Instead of relying on shifting testimonies, dramatic claims, or these fleeting informant whispers.
A different kind of analysis.
Exactly, which is what's been done with social network analysis, or SNA. Think of it like mapping the intricate connections between everyone involved in this complex web. Every known interaction, every relationship, every link, no matter how subtle. Then, using advanced algorithms, it reveals hidden patterns, identifies the key players, uncovers structural relationships that might not be immediately obvious just looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like taking this sprawling, chaotic criminal organization and turning it into a precise, navigable map. Shows who really held power, who controlled information, who was, indispensable.
Right. And what's truly fascinating here is that traditional investigations, especially cold cases like this, spanning 50 years, they often hit dead ends. They rely heavily on elusive eyewitness accounts or physical evidence that just might not exist anymore.
SNA offers a fresh perspective.
Exactly. By examining the structure of relationships within the network, it moves beyond just individual attributes to see the bigger picture of how power and information really flowed. And the investigation revealed that a really robust data set was meticulously built for this, using 3 highly authoritative sources to ensure factual integrity.
What were the sources?
First, the FBI's own declassified 1978 chronology of the Hoffa case. It's a comprehensive 70-page report released via Freedom of Information Act. Thousands of leads, interviews, findings in there.
Okay, the FBI files.
Second, Harvard law professor Jack Goldsmith's critically acclaimed book In Hoffa's Shadow. Based on deep scholarly research, access to previously unreleased documents, and crucially, Goldsmith's own personal familiarity with some of the suspects and their families, gives an almost direct insider observation of these complex relationships.
Wow, that's unique access.
And third, Detroit Mafia expert Scott Bernstein's highly regarded book, Motor City Mafia, considered a succinct, authoritative source on the Detroit Mafia structure, key figures during that era.
So a solid foundation. Declassified docs, academic research with unique access, expert historical accounts.
An incredibly robust, fact-based foundation for the analysis. Yeah. Then SNA goes to work, analyzing specific metrics to identify influence, access to information, control within this complex network.
Like what kind of metrics?
Well, things like authority, which measures who has access to valuable, often sensitive information. Think of it like being the go-to person for crucial intel within a criminal enterprise.
Okay.
Then there's betweenness. That counts how often an actor lies on the shortest path between 2 other people. Indicates their control over information or resource flow. Like, if you control a key bridge in a city, you control traffic. In a criminal network, that's immense power. You're indispensable for connections.
Makes sense.
Closeness measures how quickly information can flow to a given actor from anywhere else in the network. Shows how central they are. And eigenvector, that quantifies an actor's overall influence, identifies those connected to other well-connected individuals.
It sounds complex, but it raises that question. Can mathematics really help solve a true crime mystery? Especially one so shrouded in human deceit.
Well, in this case, the study specifically identified a power actor archetype. Individuals who exhibit the combined influence, reach, and control needed to orchestrate complex plans, like a high-profile disappearance and murder, given their central, indispensable position in the network.
So it's not guesswork.
It's not about guessing or relying on shaky testimony. It's about statistically identifying the most critical nodes in the web, revealing the underlying structure of power that enabled such a brazen act to occur and, well, remain unsolved.
And this is where it gets truly captivating, the part you've been waiting for. Because when this rigorous social network analysis was applied to that meticulously compiled, vetted data set, 3 names consistently rose right to the very top, across all the metrics, and fitting that power actor archetype.
Not obscure figures either.
Not at all. They were, in fact, incredibly key players in the organized crime world, all with very direct, often antagonistic connections to Jimmy Hoffa. The mathematics, in essence, didn't just confirm what many investigators had long suspected, it added this objective statistical layer of certainty, made it far harder to dismiss the prevailing theories.
Exactly. The investigation, through this SNA lens, revealed these 3 individuals as the priority suspects. They exhibited the highest scores across the analytical metrics, strongly suggesting their central role, their intimate knowledge of the disappearance and its orchestration.
Okay, let's name them. Who are the top 3?
First, Anthony Murch. Tony Provenzano, the powerful, notoriously violent New Jersey mobster, capo in the Genovese crime family. As we mentioned, deeply hostile history with Hoffa from prison.
And the money angle.
Crucially, yeah. Stood to lose financially, potentially millions in illicit loans and control if Hoffa successfully regained control of that Teamsters pension fund, which Provenzano had frequently borrowed from, extorted from. He had a direct, powerful, deeply personal motive for Hoffa's permanent removal.
Okay, Tony Pro. Who's second?
Second, Salvatore Sally Bugs Briguglio, also a New Jersey mobster. Known ruthless hitman for Tony Pro. Provenzano's trusted enforcer, known for cold efficiency.
And didn't he meet a violent end, too?
He did. What's incredible, chilling, really, is that he himself met his end in a brutal gang-style shooting. New York City's Little Italy, just 3 years after Hoffa's disappearance. It's widely speculated, based on credible info from various sources, including former law enforcement,
That he was killed because he might talk.
possibly killed for cooperating with the FBI about Hoffa's fate, maybe in exchange for a plea deal in some unrelated racketeering case. His untimely, violent end just adds another layer to this dark tapestry, suggests he knew far too much.
Wow. Okay, Provenzano Brugoli. Who's the third?
And third, Tony Jack Giacalone, the alleged kingpin of the Detroit Mafia, master manipulator, fixer. He had strategically positioned himself as the mediator in that supposed peace meeting at the Marcus Red Fox, gave him the perfect cover.
And the SNA backed up his influence.
The analysis showed he had a surprisingly high power actor score, strongly suggesting he possessed the influence, the reach, the capability to orchestrate such a monumental undertaking within the Detroit underworld. And the investigation revealed he was able to quickly put his alibi in place on the day of the disappearance.
Like someone expecting scrutiny.
Exactly. Characteristic of someone anticipating immediate scrutiny, needing to appear uninvolved. All 3 of these guys were high-ranking members of Sicilian organized crime groups, 1 in Detroit, 2 in New Jersey. All 3 had been key FBI suspects at various times throughout the long Hoffa investigation.
So their consistent appearance at the top of these objective mathematical rankings.
Derived from thousands of data points, yeah. Strongly suggests they had intimate knowledge of Hoffa's disappearance. Even if they weren't directly involved in the physical act itself, they were undoubtedly the masterminds or direct orchestrators.
And what about Fitzsimmons, Hoffa's successor?
What's also fascinating here, Frank Fitzsimmons, he also consistently appeared high up in the top metrics, though maybe not as a power actor in the same vein as the mob figures.
So what does that suggest?
It suggests he had a significant role, perhaps one of incidental knowledge, or maybe even received a warning from the mafia to protect their shared interests. Because he, too, stood to lose significant power, financial benefits, if Hoffa returned to lead the union. He was an undeniable beneficiary of Hoffa's demise.
Right.
So this study, using the cold, hard logic of mathematics, network theory, it powerfully reinforces that prevailing theory among law enforcement organized crime experts. The mafia orchestrated Hoffa's elimination. He'd become a dangerous, unpredictable liability.
Threatening their control over the pension fund.
And maybe even more critically, threatening to expose their deeply entrenched criminal enterprises to the feds. His hubris, that unwavering belief he was untouchable, could single-handedly fight the mob and reclaim his former glory that sealed his fate.
And the method. The disappearance itself.
The investigation revealed that those who committed this offense were practical, street-smart, incredibly cautious. Their goal was the fastest, most efficient disappearance of the body possible. Leave absolutely no trace. That's why theories involving long-distance transport or easy burial sites often fall flat.
So what's the most likely scenario for the body?
For many experts, the common, most credible theory, given the complete lack of a body despite decades of searching, is that Hoffa's remains were professionally cremated, making the search for a body inherently futile. This level of planning, ruthless execution, it points to a highly sophisticated operation, designed to ensure silence, prevent prosecution.
So what does this all mean for the enduring riddle of Jimmy Hoffa? Our deep dive, especially looking through this objective, data-driven lens of social network analysis. It strongly points towards Anthony Provenzano, Salvatore Bergoglio, and Anthony Giacalone, the central figures in this enduring riddle, the likely orchestrators.
With Frank Fitzsimmons also appearing significantly in the network, someone who definitely benefited.
Right. Even 50 years later, the precise details of his final moments, the exact location of his remains, they continue to remain elusive. Some say it was the perfect murder.
Or maybe almost too perfect because we're still talking about it.
Yeah. And that fascination, that inability to find definitive closure, it just keeps the story alive in our collective consciousness.
Which raises an important question, I think, one that goes beyond just the Hoffa case itself. If even the most advanced analytical methods can narrow down suspects, identify key players, objectively confirm long-held suspicions, but still can't definitively solve the case without new, elusive data.
Right. What does that tell us?
What does the sustained, unbroken silence from those involved tell us about the ultimate, unyielding power of organized crime's code of omerta? How truly difficult is it to penetrate that silence even decades later when almost everyone directly involved is now gone?
Makes you wonder.
And what other historical mysteries, equally shrouded in secrecy, speculation, might be illuminated by such rigorous mathematical analysis? If the right, carefully curated data were available, how many other unsolvable cases might have their truths hidden in plain sight, just waiting for a new lens to reveal them?
It's a chilling thought indeed. This deep dive has shown us the intricate layers of complexity in a case that continues to captivate the public imagination, demonstrating that sometimes the answers are there, just beyond our grasp, waiting for a new way of looking. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown.